Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's WASHRAG webinar series, Part 2, focused on Water Sanitation and Hygiene Rotary Action Group, widely known as WASHRAG. So today is October 8th, and we are starting the meeting approximately at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Gomati Manikam, and I serve as the board member of RACSID, the founder and secretary of Rotary's IT Fellowship and Rotary Club of Global Tech Innovators, Tampa Bay, Florida of USA. And it is my privilege to introduce you today to our two esteemed speakers. Our first speaker, Dr. Ronald Denham, BSc, PhD, MBA, FMC, founder of the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Rotary Action Group, WASHRAG. He's been a Rotarian since 1958 and a former district governor. Dr. Denham has dedicated decades in advancing global water and sanitation initiatives, transforming thousands of communities worldwide. By profession, he is a mechanical engineer and a management consultant. He has worked on major development projects across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. His contributions have been recognized with Rotary's highest honor, the Service Above Self Award. Now, moving on, our second speaker is Neelam Bedi. He is a development professional with over 35 years of global policy and operational experience across Africa, Asia, Middle East, Latin America, and Canada. Educated at Makerere University, Imperial College London, and Michigan State University, he has worked with the World Bank, the United Nations, and various public and private sector organizations. He is a dedicated Rotarian. He is also the cadre coordinator for Rotary's Community Economic Development Focus Area and holds leadership roles with SRAG, RACSID, and Rotary's District 7070. So following the two presentations from Ron and Neelam, we'll have about 15-20 minutes for a Q&A session, which will be facilitated by Rakesh Babuji. He serves as the board member of RACSID, founder and president of Rotary's IT Fellowship and Rotary Club of Global Tech Innovators 6950. But before that, I would like to introduce you to a special guest today, that is Rotarian Elizabeth Cherian. She is the district governor of Rotary International District 3192, a distinguished leader in health promotion and special service. She serves as the president of the Alliance for Health Promotion in Geneva, working closely with the World Health Organization and ECOSOC to advance global health equity. She is also the international coordinator for ComHAD, president of the Yalanka's Educational Association, an active member of numerous national and international committees in health, education, and community welfare. So welcome, DT Cherian. We request you to kickstart today's webinar. I'm quickly going to search for you and give you the permissions to talk. There you go. Over to you, DG.
Thank you, Gomati, for introducing me, that generous introduction. Thank you. I'm so happy that we're having these webinars regularly now. And at least the Rotarians are knowing what Rotary Action Groups are about. I'm so happy that they've kickstarted this. And I think we should continue with the same tempo so that we have,
Absolutely.
we're able to get more people to know what Rotary Action Groups are all about. At least the buzzword is there now and everybody's coming to know more about Rotary Action Groups. We wanted, Rotary Action Groups to actually focus on getting in more people interested in the subjects that we discuss in the various action groups we have, because we can then have them get interested into Rotary and get them into Rotary. That has been our drive. So at least here we've been able to do that to a great extent. We've got quite a few people into the action groups and people are willing to get into the action groups. And so I think this initiative has been really good, and I'm so happy you're spearheading all these things for us despite being there. Looking forward to learning more from this session of the webinar. and looking forward to many more such connects. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, DG, for making time and joining us today. Now, please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. Ron Denham, founder of WASHRAG. Over to you, sir.
Can you unmute me?
You are unmuted. Yes, we can hear you.
I am. Oh, thank you very much. Great. Thank you very much for that generous introduction. And I'm delighted to be with you to talk about WASHRAG and best to speak a little bit about our history, our legacy, what we've accomplished, and where we see ourselves going. Well, you know, WASHRAG, the start of this, let's say, this experiment goes way back to the 1990s when I was a past district governor and got to know some of the presidents of Rotary of the day, Bill Huntley, for example, and Rick King. And I worked at that level. And in those days, my concern more than anything was helping promote membership in Rotary. But in that connection, I made contact with these Rotary leaders, and that stood me in good stead. I was also a training leader at Anaheim, as it was in those days, and major membership coordinator with the RI president, Rick King. In those days, I was doing a lot of speaking. In fact, one of my speeches, which is very well known and very popular at the time, named after James Bond, was Shaken, Not Stirred. I pointed out that in too many parts of the world, especially in North America, Rotarians were shaken by what they saw, but they were not stirred to action. So that question of action became one of my real concerns going forward. In the year 2024, 2004, the president-elect of Rotary was Glenn Estes Jr. from Tennessee. He was the centenary president of Rotary, and he wanted to do something different. He called me and said, Ron, I think we should be doing more in the humanitarian area around the world. I would like you to be general coordinator of Water, Health and Hunger, a resource group. And I've assigned 2 assistant coordinators to help you, Yusuf Kodwawala from Kenya and Lou Marciano, Providence. Now, in those days, resource groups were appointed by president. And President Glenn had assigned those 2 assistant coordinators, but he had also appointed a zone coordinator in each of the zones. And that was in the days when presidential appointments were very important. And it was a good opportunity for any Rotarian to gain some visibility as well as making changes. So one of my earlier tasks was to give speeches helping Rotarians everywhere understand some of the issues associated with lack of water and lack of sanitation. One of the earlier experiences was going to the World Water Forum in Nairobi, I think 2004, 2005. And there, very early on, made contact with other people in the water and sanitation field, such as Greg Allgood, who was with Procter & Gamble, Peter Lockery, Camille Dow-Baker, who was chair of POSH, the Center for Affordable Water, Sanitation and Technology. And that basis, that grounding, helped provide WASHRAG and Rotarians with some connections to the, let's say, the tangible world of water and sanitation issues. And I was going around particularly North America, giving speeches at the request of Rotary governors and Rotary directors and so forth. And in 2007, I was invited by the zone coordinator, Charlie Clements, to come and speak to Rotarians in Houston. Went down there. Charlie was a good friend. And in fact, in those days, whenever I was asked to give a speech, I always said yes. It's like the tradition in Rotary. You never say no, or at least you only say no once when you're invited to join. So I went down to Houston, and a big audience, 300 people. And I gave my spiel about what the challenges were in water, what the needs were, what we in Rotary and what other NGOs were doing and not doing very well. My talk went over fairly well. One of the people in the audience there was past Rotary President Frank Devlin. And after I'd given my spiel, he said, okay, I propose we form a water and sanitation Rotary Action Group. Now, that didn't come completely out of the cloud because the directors of Rotary, the board of directors, had approved the concept of Rotary or Rotarian action groups. But not a lot had happened up until that point, and Frank saw this as a great opportunity to really have an impact. And so he moved that we formed the Rotarian Action Group, and sure enough, it was approved very quickly, very readily. And then while I was either talking to somebody else or maybe went out of the room briefly, when I came back, I discovered that I was now the president of the Water and Sanitation Rotarian Action Group. I had an organization, but no members, no money, just the title. But it sounded impressive. So, so one of the first things we thought about is now, what can we do? How can we, get some leverage on the? Sorry, I just lost my notes there. What was our mission going to be? Well, we worked together with a number of other Rotarians, especially a group of Rotarians in Michigan who were forming or thinking of forming a group, an action group called Thirsting to Serve. Their focus was on biosand filters. They wanted to go and around the Rotary world, encourage Rotarians everywhere to become involved in delivering biosand filters to Rotarians. And it was a great program. They're doing very, very well. They had reached agreement with the Dow Chemical and Cascade Manufacturing, Michigan, to provide biosand filters. And they were shipping them through an agreement with the US Navy to Ghana, particularly, to Dominican Republic, and so forth. They got a good head of steam going. But I sat down and met with them and said, look, yours is a very, very good potential RAG, but you're only touching part of the water issues. Why don't we work together and so become more significant? Why don't we work together and become focused on much broader water and sanitation issues? And they agreed. They said, yeah, let's get together. So the first thing we did decide is, what is our mission? And the mission was not to provide water. The mission, which we articulated early on, was improving life and livelihood through safe water and sanitation. In other words, safe water and sanitation was a means to an end, not an end in itself. And that provided the focus, and it distinguished us from many other non-governmental organizations that had a mission of providing water, drilling boreholes, putting in rainwater harvesting, and so forth. But our focus was always on the community. So this organization, Thirsting to Serve, now became part of WASHRAG, Water and Sanitation Rotarian Action Group. And we persuaded some of their members, some of their team, such as Carolyn Moog, Bob Wubiner, Bob Hildreth, Jenny Ryan, Charlie Jesperson, to become founding members of the board of directors of WASHRAG. So that was how we started, 2007, 2008, full of enthusiasm, not quite sure what we should do or how we should go about it, but at least we had a board that was very familiar with water issues around the world. and said, okay, let's roll. But so now we had the beginning of an organization, but we didn't have any money. And in those days, the Rotary were a little bit leery about rags. They weren't quite sure what our role would be in the firmament. So they said, okay, we limit you to $25,000. Now, $25,000 doesn't go very far, as all of you know, in funding WASH projects. So we said, we've got to find some way around this. So we created what is now known as the WASHRAG Foundation. But in those days, we had to be very careful that we weren't seen as avoiding Rotary rules. So we called ourselves the Rotarian Safe Water and Sanitation Foundation, Inc. A mouthful, but at least people could say your WASHRAG, your regiment. No. This isn't WASHRAG. It so happened that the directors were the same people and so forth, but it was a Rotarian foundation, not a Rotary foundation. So that was really how we got started. And from the very beginning, we wanted to create relationships. In fact, finding people and developing relationships were the key to our success. One of the first people to join was Anna Shepherd. I had known Anna for a long time. She actually worked for me as my secretary in consulting for a number of years. And she knew me. She didn't have to train me, but I needed somebody who could, let's say, pull my irons out of the fire. I was going down around the world doing lots of talking, meeting Rotary clubs, but I didn't have the capacity to follow up. And the board of directors also a very limited capacity. We needed a sound administrative support, and Anna Shepherd filled that role. But there was another contact, another relationship which became very important, and this with Rotary director Grant Wilkins from Colorado, from Denver. I had originally met Grant at a conference on Rotary in Russia in St. Petersburg, but we hit it off. And from once we started talking about water and sanitation, Grant, who was a polio survivor, said, right, this is great. And he became extremely supportive from the beginning. One of the first things he did was arrange for me to give a TED talk at the University of Denver, which you can still see on YouTube. YouTube, Ron Denham, TED Talk 210. And that was the point where I started making the point that unless we thought about sustainability issues, we would, like so many other so many other NGOs, fail. And in my travels around the world, I'd seen so many failed WASH projects, boreholes, wells, toilets, sanitation, latrines, all built with good intention, dedicated Rotarians and NGOs, but 6 months later, not functioning. So that was the message we started developing, and it gained credibility. Another very important contact was from Grant was introduction to a gentleman by the name of David Douglas. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. He was the chair of the Wallace Genetic Foundation. He also, in his own way, was encouraging water and sanitation. He was working with Congress in Washington to get approval for the Water for the People Act, a $500 million program. But he was very much supportive. And from the beginning, he and I sort of struck it well. We got along on the same wavelength, as it were, the same page. But not only did he support me emotionally, he arranged for me to speak to the National Press Club in Washington. This again was an opportunity for WASHRAG to get publicity. It was well publicized. It also gave us another speech which we could refer people to. So gradually we were developing some momentum. Most important of all, however, was participation in Rotary events. Every year we'd go to the Rotary Convention, we'd have a booth, a WASHRAG booth, we'd go to district conferences, zone institutes, continually talking about Rotary, dragooning people as they walk by the booth, hauling them in, saying, look, you've got to become a member, getting their business cards. And implicitly, if somebody gave me a business card, that was an opportunity to reach out and write to them or call them. Because as you know, in Rotary, you're not officially allowed to contact somebody in another district unless you have the express permission of the district governor. And then the district governors didn't even know what the hell we were doing. However, if we got Rotary business cards, yes, we could, and gradually spread the word and encourage those people become interested in water, to, I guess, an understanding of the opportunity. More than that, spread the word and encourage other members to become, other Rotarians to become members. So very, very strong. And that was really how we started on our mission. And from there, we went on from strength to strength. Having the support of Anna Shepherd as executive secretary meant that I had the time and the other members of the board had an opportunity to talk to Rotarians and other organizations worldwide. One of our purposes generally, in fact, we had our mission, of course, of improving health and livelihood through water and sanitation. But we also said that our personal mandate is to create awareness and take action. Remember, that was Frank Devlin's theme when he was president, and it was very, very powerful, Dean. We had to create awareness. So many Rotarians didn't even understand the lack of water and its impact in the developing world. Sanitation too, and hygiene. At the same time as we were promoting Rotary, we were extending our relationship outside. Rotarians in Germany had formed an organization called Wasser ohne Grenzen, Water Without Borders. And in France, Eau Sans Frontières, we developed relationships there to spread our membership, but also see opportunities for Rotarians in Germany and France to work with local organizations that were already involved in water and sanitation everywhere. But in the meantime, WASHRAG was gaining strength and recognition throughout the Rotary world. One of our major impacts, major changes rather, was to have Bill Boyd, past president of Rotary, become our chair. And he helped us structure WASHRAG because prior to that, we'd been rather a loose arrangement with directors and operating people. Roles were not clearly defined. There was a certain amount of confusion. Let's say a certain amount of disconnection among the team. So Bill Boyd came in and became chair for several years and helped structure our relationship. And it also meant that then I, instead of having to worry about the governance and board issues, I could continue my mission in the field, meeting Rotarians in India, in sub-Saharan Africa, in Latin America, understanding what the needs were and helping them structure water sanitation projects. We got great support in India, for example, from Kalyan Banerjee, Sushil Gupta, and even more recently, Sheikh Amaita. But Kalyan Banerjee, Sushil Gupta, and then Ramesh Agarwal, Ranjan Dhingra, all very strongly supportive and help and getting involved in WASH project, not so much drilling boreholes, but rainwater harvesting, creating ponds, check dams, and gully plugs. Going back a little bit to 2008, I mentioned that I'd been attending a lot of WASH conferences, and one in Mexico was a World Water Forum. And then I went to meet people, promote WASHRAG, to try and identify supporters, to try and identify partners who we could work with. and subsequently World Water Forums in Mexico, Marseille, and Brazil. But in Mexico, had a chance to talk to representatives from USAID and got along very, very well with them, helped them understand what we were trying to do. We got to understand what they were doing. And eventually, based on that seed, USAID and Rotary developed a relationship which resulted in that combined activity, USAID Rotary in the Philippines, Dominican Republic, Ghana, the first phase, which was really a pilot, but it was successful. And then that was repeated in Uganda, Ghana again, and I forget which but there was a third country. Oh no, sorry, the third country still hasn't been resolved. But again, a very successful relationship. We're raising our profile. About this time, Rotary Foundation hired Erica Gwynn. She gave us a focal point in Rotary who understood WASH and sustainability. Prior to that, we've been dealing with people at the Rotary Foundation who didn't really understand water or sanitation. Erica was a professional, and she was able to work within Rotary, complementing what we were doing outside. Simultaneously, that we were getting more and more support from Rotary presidents. Ray Klingensmith, and you remember one of his messages, bigger, better, and bolder. Gordon McAnally, Mark Maloney, Jennifer Jones especially, who again asked me to speak at the Zone Institute in December, in Detroit. Very, very effective. And Shekhar Mehta, he promoted the Rotary India Water Program. We got opportunities to speak at the convention. One of our members, Isis Mejias, you remember her, a young lady dressed in that pink pantsuit at the Atlanta convention, again, spreading awareness, creating awareness of the need and the opportunities. We grew. We've created, among the various members in our Rotary world, we've created a team of specialists, the professional resource group, as we call it. These are Rotarians who are specialized, who have a certain skill in some aspect of associated with water and sanitation. It could be technical, drilling wells. It could be legal on land title issues. It could be on funding, how to raise money for WASH projects and so forth. This is the kind of team that was developed, and the professional resource group led in turn to ambassadors. Gradually, we've encouraged volunteer Rotarians in every district to become an ambassador for WASHRAG. So getting leverage, spreading the word, and being advocates for our program. Very, very successful indeed. And these ambassadors are available to help Rotarians in your clubs, wherever you need help with designing a program, getting a global grant, answering questions such as how do we do a community assessment and so forth. These are the kind of things that the ambassadors are now offering, and we're available to help clubs everywhere. Not only that, we offer a $2,000 incentive to clubs to encourage them to use these skills. And so it goes on. Another highlight of the past several years has been the WASHRAG Summit. Starting in 2010, we held annual conferences on the day before the RI convention. And we had speakers from many NGOs, USAID, UNICEF, as well as Rotarians with practical experience who were telling us about their experience, what they learned particularly. And we encourage them to talk about failures because we learn more from failures in many cases than from successes. We also created in Canada the Canadian Rotary Water Foundation, an organization that raised $1 million from Canadian Rotarians and friends to help fund WASH projects led by Canadian Rotary clubs. And we've also worked with and or spawned other organization, Clean Rivers of the World, another initiative more spawned by members of WASHRAG. Very significant, a Wash in Schools program, my own club, Rotary Club of Toronto Eglinton, involved in two major programs, one in Nakuru in Kenya and the other currently in Uganda. Wash in Healthcare Facilities, another initiative which is gaining a lot of support now from the Rotary Foundation. End Plastic Soup, another opportunity for Rotarians to work. And so it goes on. I should also mention menstrual hygiene management, which is now a RAG in its own right. So, friends, I should have taken a little bit more than the 20 minutes that I was allocated, but I feel very proud of what we've done, and I would encourage you to help spread the word about WASHRAG. Encourage members to join. And if they join, then they have access to a body of knowledge about how to do it, how to do any aspect of a global grant. You can also access funding or identify sources of funding. Furthermore, if you have expertise in water, it's a chance for you to practice that vocational skills. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to helping answer any of your questions. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. I now request Neelam Bedi to please go ahead.
Thank you, Gomati. Ron, thank you for a fascinating journey. Some of those things even I wasn't aware of, although you and I sit next to each other at a club. I had prepared a slide presentation, but in light of what Ron has talked, I might even check that out. And I think talk about some of the fascinating issues that have been raised. But I will just sort of quickly put on my slide deck and I'll zip through it. But there are some very important points that Ron has made that we should be mindful of. And I think because the purpose when Gomati asked me to do that is, number one, it was really talking about the complementarities between different RAGs. What has happened recently in recent years is that RAGs are, Ron laid out a fascinating journey that they are a relatively recent mechanism within Rotary. All told, about 20 years old, Ron. And so, if that, but the amount of work that they have done and achievements are really phenomenal. So now, while we've had 7 areas of focus, each one focusing on, different, I won't name them, you're all probably familiar with them anyway, but the issue is that, Rotary, as Ron pointed out, is focused on solving humanitarian issues. So when you're solving a problem, it's tendency for us humans to get involved in silos, and we sort of say, okay, well, that's just a water and sanitation issue, or that's just a health issue, or that's a literacy issue. So with these sorts of things, I don't think we have been always able to solve the problems. So now here comes in the RAGs, and there are also fellowships, and I think over 100 of these. And what Gomati is now doing with the IT and Rakesh, the fellowship, these are really important. Again, they may not be official arms of the Rotary world, but the networks that they create offer a lot of opportunities. And so I think I'd like to offer to you the possibilities of how when we when we cast off our the narrow roles that we are assigned, the world is sort of a much wider. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cough here, and so and more recently, Ron talked about the World Water Summit. The last RICOM, since I wear hats within SRAG, RAGSET, and WASHRAG, we were interested in doing a joint summit in Calgary. And so 1 day summit on RAGSET and SRAG, which went out quite well. It was both virtual and in person, and we had some really great speakers. I had got David Miller, the former mayor of Toronto, come there. So that showed, how do we think beyond the borders of our own rags or our own areas of focus? And so that was really an eye opener for people who attended that. And I know there are several people from RAGSET who are attending today's webinar. So that really opened the way. Now, today's assignment here that Gomazi handed us was, well, let's take a look at water. And how does water relate to other rags, including RAGSET? So I will sort of run through some illustrations of that, keeping in mind the time here. Now, one way that I have looked through all the humanitarian issues within Rotary, and Rotary recognizes that, is the sustainable development goals that the UN has set. Now, each uh, area of focus will say, okay, well, this is the sustainable goal, development goal that we address. Now, for example, if I pulled out a few of them. Sustainable development goal number 1, no poverty. Now, it's relevant to WASH because it reduces the multidimensional poverty, partly because of the lack of water. Now, there is a concurrent economic development implication. Fewer resources spent on illness, healthcare, and lost labor. Uh, Sustainable Development Goal number 3, good health. Again, has direct relevance to water, but also has results in the co-benefit in worker productivity and incomes. Education, again, without water, and I think we have had projects in Africa, in Uganda, Kenya, that Ron and I are part of. You look at one of the prime complaints there is, well, you have children who cannot attend school because they're, we've got duties assigned to fetching water or during the menstrual cycles. But there again, I think so. These sorts of things, the water projects do create are a fundamental. They go beyond just providing potable water or sanitation. They have economic implications. We could talk about health as well. Gender equality, again, a key aim and objective of our of the Rotary world. So I have listed, these are just illustrations. Now, to get more specific about it, for example, how does WASH enable economic growth? Healthy people is equivalent to having a productive workforce. You save the time from water collection. Well, that frees up time for education and income. Reduced healthcare costs. Result is more disposable income. So these are sorts of things. I think these are well documented in the world, and I won't bore you with a lot of stats here. But if you start looking at just cast our eye outwards, and as Ron was talking about the whole history of WASHRAG, a fact that I always keep in mind is look at, water may be the new oil because without water, we cannot survive. Still around the world, over 2 billion people lack safe drinking water. And over, 3.4 billion lack safe sanitation. And the time saving from these and the number of child deaths that occur from diarrhea and related diseases, they could all be prevented by water. And so there is an opportunity for us to think about the co-benefits of any of our action group work that we do. So what are the pathways? Again, just to emphasize the fewer deaths out of preventing diarrhea, time savings. Time savings is a huge kind of an opportunity for people in villages who say, well, I do not have to spend 2 hours a day trying to figure out where to fetch water and how to use it, the educational pathway. So these are different ways of lenses through looking at the opportunities. A case in point, and there's a project. I mean, I did not pick one of my own, but as a member of the cadre, have been involved in different projects. There is a project case study in Yumba, Uganda, global grant number 2237714. Now this project, there were 20 boreholes, 575 latrines, and multiple filters. And the Rotary Community Corps were trained for sustainability. Sustainability, as Ron pointed out, is the end of the day really important for us Rotarians. We can create a borehole, have a well, but if it is not maintained, what happens to it? So those are the sorts of things. The next stage, we have a great idea, but then we must sustain it. And the income from these things helps local residents launch businesses. This is where someone like Rag said, the economic development folks can come in. We join hands and said, okay, this is not only a water project, it is also an economic development project. So these are sort of the thing. Now, I'll talk briefly about the resources available because Gomati wanted us to address, how do we go beyond that? And I will try not to limit just myself to my role as a cadre, but that's, my personal bias. The cadre is, what are the cadre? Within the Rotary world, I'm still amazed that a lot of people are not aware of the power that the cadre can bring in helping them not only conceive and design projects, but to implement them. And Rotary has appointed over 500 experts in different areas. A lot of them are, for the health, doctors, nurses, public health folks, accountants. When we talk about, sustainability, financial sustainability, agricultural, microcredit, economic development, on and on. And in the newest area, there's about environmental professionals, educators. So these are folks who, on the strength of their professional achievements, are willing to get involved. And I think this is where we need to spread the word among clubs and districts that if we are going to design projects, including global grants, district grants, or private fundraising, the cadre can help in that objective. Now, Ron made a very important point that a lot of times Rotary, we think about, global grants and district grants, but a lot of our work now we have, I think in RAGSET, we is an affiliated foundation as well. They open the world to making connections elsewhere without the strictures of what Rotary's rules and regulations may be. So this is where the strength, we talk about the power of Rotary, but the power of action groups, I think, is a multiplier. So now the cadre, for example, can help in community assessment, evaluate the technical feasibility, and incorporate sustainability requirements. Because a lot of the global grants, I think traditionally clubs and districts have been hesitant to engage in them, and they'll throw up their arms and say, oh, this is too difficult, too onerous. And yet, if they are conceived properly at the beginning, there's no reason why we could not be involving or getting more. The power of leverage funding is huge now, and to navigate the grant application process and connect project proponents with technical experts. So these are some of the roles of the cadre can do. But they can also act as facilitators to help potential project proponents learn about how do we do that, through grant management exercises, district events, and club meetings. So I think it is gradually now filtering within the Rotarian world that, yeah, we can draw upon volunteer professionals as part of our 1.4 million people around the world who are willing. Now, the cadre project cycle really is, the word community assessment is key to all the global grants. We are not there to save a country by uh, delivering a project that we would like to do. Step one is really discovering what the community needs are. What do they want? That's the fundamental cardinal principle in that. And then we start in the project planning. And that's where, so these are the very detailed guidelines available. There's experience around. And I think what I enjoy about Rotary is we can pick up the phone and say, well, Tom or Jane, and, what did you do in your project? And so that's how we learn from each other. And the implementation and monitoring, that used to be an afterthought. But in the new world, those have to be designed at the ground level. We think about what we are trying to achieve. How will we be measuring it? Because after a project is underway, sometimes there is no opportunity to do that. So that has become greater and greater importance. And evaluation, learning, and possible scaling. Now we have things like the programs of scale. I think we are on the third or fourth iteration of that. The global grants had a dollar limit to that. With the programs of scale, that becomes larger. So those are some of the possibilities that I think anyone who is passionate at a club or a district level about a project should keep in mind that the world will not stop after their project is done. That can be replicated and scaled up. So now the one word I will try not to bore you with this. This is not the seminar for impact evaluation, but the cadre will look at things like, what are the inputs and what are the outputs and what are the outcomes. So these are, this is not rocket science, but unless you don't go through these steps, a lot of times you may be missing the obvious. So the cadre are now trained and will help you think about that, because frequently I may be very passionate about a project. I want to solve the world by having that project there, but I may have missed looking at an unintended consequence, or what is the primary thing to shape that discipline. So there are tools available. And how do the cadre fit in? There is something called, this is again the world where, at a club level, we are not frequently aware of that. Now Rotary is insisting on having what they call their district resource network, or the international DISCs. So these are the International Service Committee. So there are multiple mechanisms. So step one is not to try and become an expert in the process here, but to recognize that we have a lot of formal and informal networks there. So don't be shy. Just go out and say, well, talk to your district governor. Who is our cadre member here? Who is our disc chair? How can they help? Can they come and talk to our club? And that goes on and on. So these are just for your familiarity. So now the project resources are, other than that, there is a lot of material available on our website, and which has been recently refreshed. For example, there's a new community assessment handbook. There's a new monitoring and evaluation handbook, the global grant policy statements and guidelines. So I know it's not the kind of thing you want to do at bedtime looking through that, but a little bit of that. I think Rotary website is not necessarily the most user-friendly, but buried somewhere in there, there's a lot of material. So those are some of the resources you can draw upon. And so the key item to consider is keep aware that the whole whatever your governance issues are in your district, the thing, work with those, tap into the expertise that's available out there, and contact an advisor to say, well, I'm thinking about this. Am I on the right track? Can you help? So those are the sorts of things that we can think about. So anyway, I think I'm mindful of the time here, and I will stop there and open up for questions.
Thank you, Neelam. Rakesh, I request you to please facilitate the Q&A. But I do have a question. Ron, you covered the history of WASH. You also told us about how health and livelihood through water and sanitation can be achieved. You also touched upon rainwater harvesting and creating ponds. But do you think technology like IoT-based monitoring, data mapping, or smart water systems can genuinely make a difference, or is it still a buzzword in the Rotary world?
Sorry, Gamal, could you just repeat that? Can we make a difference in what?
Do you think technologies like IoT-based monitoring, data mapping, or smart water systems can make a genuine difference in projects? Rakesh, you might be able to add some points here.
Yeah, I'll explain
I'm
how
sure.
that works.
I'm sure there are others who could answer that, but data is, when we get into larger programs or programs of scale or large projects, data is the key to moving ahead. In fact, from the very beginning, in fact, way back when, about 10 years ago, I put together a program or an outline, a PowerPoint presentation for Rotary directors, in which I said feedback is absolutely important. We start with a pilot or whatever we do initially, we should be collecting data, feeding that back, and then making mid-course corrections, changing where we're going. So data definitely, where the water is located, for example, the quality of water, the amount of water available, data like that is essential. And data on the uptake by the people, unless we know how the extent to which they're utilizing the resources, unless the extent to which they're paying for the water, for example, data across the whole spectrum becomes essential to making it sustainable in the long run. We are talking about sustainability, and that means self-funding. We can't continually subsidizing a water system. It needs to be self-sustaining, self-funding, and data is really a very important, essential part of that particular aspect.
And I'll add something to that. I think, Gomati, you mentioned IoT, the Internet of Things. Yes, these days there are inexpensive sensors available. Because that's the other part. We are becoming aware of projects where, there may have been a water pump that has been non-functional. So with an inexpensive sensor, it will send information. So yes, to answer your question, technology has a great role. So it is evolving.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's very clear that technology definitely plays an important role. It looks like a lot of things that are happening. What Gomati was trying to bring about here is one of the biggest problems in a country like India is not about resources, or it's not about the availability of hand pumps or bore wells or wells. It's a problem. The biggest problem there is when something goes wrong, as Neelam just rightly mentioned. When something goes wrong, fixing it, getting to know that there is something wrong there at the right moment, and fixing it is a big issue. So as Neelam, you rightly pointed out, having these sensors placed there, that would constantly look at the functionality of these pumps or hand bores would give the center or the government enough information about what's happening. So in that way, there could be data scientists, data scientists brought in for analysis and looked at what is actually going on there. It's not about something that's getting broken and getting fixed. It's about finding out the root cause and fixing it and ensuring that these things don't repeat again. Because there are several reasons why these things go wrong. And at the same time, it is also about aquifer depth, knowing where exactly water sources are, because most water sources, they dry up after some time, and the system that's used is dowsing. Still, in many places, dowsing. That's not a very scientific way of predicting water depth or predicting water volumes, aquifer depth, basically. So that is where satellite imagery and satellite data comes into picture, where we know exactly where water is available, and those could be the right places where we dig in. We look at just not the vegetation, just not surface water, but we look at aquifer depth and then dig in from there. That's something that's missing, and that could resolve a lot of things. And that's where the IT fellowship would come into picture. That's where collaboration with or between WASHRAG and all of the other rags and the IT fellowship would come in. We have a very strong, Neelam, you know about it, and even Carl here, who's our board member, would know about it. Carl 311, PDG Carl 311, and even Shah Bilawar, who has been a very strong supporter of ours. You all would know there are a lot of possibilities with AI related and AI powered systems these days, which we work with, and we can transform the way Rotary functions. There has already been a lot of transformation in a lot of ways in many places. Uganda, for example, has been a great example of what we have piloted. So these are some things that we can do and change the way, or rather amplify the way Rotary impacts the world.
Can I make a small point here, and then just to add to your point, Rakesh, as Ron mentioned that initially in the evolution, WASHRAG helped to advance the concept of just water to water and sanitation. So going beyond just supply of water. And likewise now, the watershed management concept. We have the Environmental Sustainability Action Group. So they talk. So I know the Rotary staff, Erica Gwynn, has always saying, okay, how do we address not just water but the watershed management? So this is where the data, technology, satellite mapping, hydrogeology, all those things come in. So I think as an IT fellowship, you may want to offer your expertise and be interested in all the different rags and see how you can leverage and help their goals.
And I think if I just add to that, Rakesh, capacity building is so important, a part of any WASH program, and that could cover so many different things. The capacity building could be training technologists in maintaining a pump, for example, something as simple as that. Or it could be using telemetering to monitor the quantity of water being put out from a water point. But capacity building, training people, and that unfortunately is something we overlook in Rotary. And I can think of many instances where we've put in, typically say, a borehole, and we train somebody in servicing that particular pump when it fails. But that technologist now has more capacity, more capability than others in the community. And there's a possibility that he might be hired away. Somebody else may say, wow, this guy is good. I want to hire him. So where is the backup? Where's the follow? So this capacity building is more than just training one person initially. Capacity building is almost a continuous training, learning experience in every situation. And regrettably, it is always too little in any global grant. I'll see training one day, whereas training should be continuous. But the point you're making, I think, touches on the essential need for capacity building at all levels, all skills, all areas of a particular program. Raising money, for example. If we put in a community water system, where's the money going to come? Where's the funding going to come from to maintain that after the initial outlay? Again, we should have worked with the community, Parent Teachers Association, local water authority to get a commitment from them that, yes, the funding will be available. So absolutely crucial in any program.
Thanks, Ron. Yes, Shab, you have something too.
Well, I just want to, Ron and Nilan, you guys are awesome. We appreciate you and what you have done and all the connection that you have made across the aisles in Rotary and the young people. But I just want to add something in that regard, how our group over here and reaching out and connecting other groups together, the AI and innovation. We had joined hands across the aisle. Also, across. Yes. If you look at WhatsApp, you'll see that we have groups that connected all action groups together. And also, Global Grant, we have a group that consists of 685 members, including Rotary Act, doing Global Grant together. And in the chat over here, I just posted one link that also shows how to raise funds and connect with other people. We even using AI to know how much each district in the world has in DDF as if this moment. So if you have and you want to connect with someone, Rotary International did not post that yet, or they're not probably, like you said, it's a Privacy Act. If you have a card, you can connect with someone. If you don't, but with the existence of AI can reach across. So any information that any district has posted becomes public knowledge. So Rotary International, and I discussed that with our General Secretary, it becomes a public knowledge. So we're taking advantage of that in this group and in our groups to do global grants together. We even feeding our global grants to AI and give them the parameters of the grant and then the area of focus and foundation. And AI is writing the global grant. So this way, we are making it easy to our young people and also to our senior people that can save them time using the technology that's available for us. And we're connecting Project Fairs together. So Project Fair from Colombia is connected with Project Fair with Guatemala, with Ukraine, and with Africa. So this way, we have an arm that stretches across the aisle and across our organizations in Rotary. And I hope that everyone that has some knowledge to share it. And I don't think only with one thing, like in our group right here, we talked about the global grant and how can we help each other. So here comes Gamati and Rakesh and says, okay, let's see if we can put a corner where people can post their global grant, and also a corner where governors who has access DDF can say, I pledge this to do global grant. If you have a global grant, suggest it. So this way, we will be a tool or a vehicle that will bring Rotarians together through global grants. And nothing is better for membership than bringing a membership together with the global grant. And the perfect example of it is India, Bangladesh, Nepal. Because of their involvement in global grants and in service, their membership and their foundation giving is through the roof. So we don't, and then we have shifted directors. We had added one director in India. We lost one director in the United States because we do not do enough projects in the United States and include our members in those projects. So I think the key issue is how can we connect us all together, every arm, every finger in Rotary International, through the technology that's available for us today, and probably just have a place where people have a question and they just answer, get the answer right there. Why not? Why not? If we use all the technology available nowadays, then everybody can just answer the question, and we don't have to hoard the knowledge. If you have some knowledge, post it, put your name in there, and we'll work on that. Again, I'll be talking to Rakesh and to Gamasi about having resources like you, Ron. You're a wealth of knowledge. Nilan, you're a wealth of knowledge how to get the water project in there. So why not have a resource like yourself on one side and a resource where people looking for experts on our website that they can reach it right away without looking for it hard, because looking for it, especially in Rotary International, if you want to look for something in Rotary International, it's a beautiful website, but it is hidden in about 6-7 layers. If you look at the resources I gave, the first link, it gives you everything in Rotary in the link. Or the subject in a link, you just go to the subject. So make it easy for the people so they can really use their time for service and connecting with other people.
Yeah. In response to that, Chab, you probably know that under Stu Martin's leadership, WASHRAG is now exploring how AI could be more effective. It's the beginning of a long road. Somebody once said a single journey, a 6,000-mile journey begins with a single step. We're taking that single step. Stu has held a couple of seminars on AI, and gradually, as we all become more familiar with it, it can be a much more powerful tool. I agree with you. We still have a long way to go, unfortunately, but it's coming. Let's put it that way.
Well, in one of the links, if you click on it, it will tell you how to use AI for global grant, and it also gives you the process that we went through and what we have done. So it's not like only just for that global grant. It gives you the process we used to establish that global grant.
Yeah, that's right.
One point, Shihab, you make some excellent point. On the power of sharing, when you talk about knowledge, that's the only, it's not a commodity, but the only asset that does not diminish when you share. If I have money, I share it, I have less. But if I share knowledge, it doesn't mean I have less. I may even have more through what you add. So I think that's a very important concept to keep in mind.
Yes.
Thank you.
PDG Carl, you had a question. You can unmute yourself and ask.
No, okay. Hello, everyone. So my question is what I posted in the chat, and that is, if you look at the projects that we do across Rotary, normally within the global grant framework, they're fairly small. And at the end of the day, they usually only have impact in a pretty local area. And obviously, one of the things we're trying to do is have much greater impact, which seems to me a way to do that is to find a way to get larger third-party organizations involved in more of our projects. So more of them end up looking almost like programs of scale. So my question for Ron and Neelam is, what could we do to accomplish that more than just an occasional time?
Here, you know, I think we go back to the traditions in Rotary. And one of the traditions was club autonomy, club doing its own thing. And that habit, that mindset is very, very difficult to change. The idea of several clubs coming together, for example, on the larger program, isn't widely or readily accepted in Rotary. There have been times, for example, I think in Uganda, maybe 8 years ago, they created the Uganda Rotary Water Plus, which was an umbrella organization under the district governor, Chris Mutalia, where all of the clubs were involved. And they talked generally about if there's a water program or project of any kind, how can clubs work together in technological aspect, work together in funding, for example, work together in bringing in other organizations such as UNICEF and so forth. That habit, however, isn't widely accepted. Haiti is a wonderful example of where clubs have come together under what they call HANWASH, the Haiti National Water and Sanitation, a great program. But that took the leadership of past President Barry Rasson to make it happen. And similarly in Uganda, that was, I mentioned Chris Mutalia, but behind him was to be the future president of Rotary, Sam Owori. It needs that kind of leadership, Carl, and it needs a few people like yourself who can see it happening and can create awareness, help people understand the need for more collaboration, working together, bringing in other organizations. Erica Gwynn promotes this, but of course, she is just one voice. But when we look together at WASHRAG and the other RAGs, Neelam's RAG, for example, when we look at the cadre, these are the vehicles which are available in Rotary to help people come together and work together. But it won't happen, unfortunately, overnight. There are still a lot of Rotary clubs that want to do their own thing, and to hell with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Timothy, I have a question.
Any questions, please do
Rakesh.
feel.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
I did put in chat, I was on a recent call with a Rotary group that created a community action for fresh water and data collection with the United Nations. And one of the difficulties I had with that is they've signed up supposedly 140 clubs already globally and don't really have an action plan. So I suggested they get with WASH and have an action plan developed for all that data that they're collecting with the UN's mapping program.
Yeah.
Another question I have would be, Rakesh, would it be potentially, or I know it's possible, to develop a RAG AI, a retrieval augmented generation program that would harness all the data that we've collected and put it into an AI specifically for our Rotary groups and action groups, since AI really isn't reliable information and proven information all the time. We take a lot of the information we get through AI as fact, and there's a lot of sources that it's pulling from or creating fictitious sources.
Yeah, so we already have that tool which can do that, and but the issue here is having the data. We don't have a single database that can actually be used to work on right now. We have different sources. Different districts have their own databases. We have RAGs that have their own databases. So if we have a collective database, or if we have a systematic way of bringing all the data onto a cloud, because we have the cloud space to accommodate all of this data. So we just need to have that together. We have the tool to do that. That's exactly what I was talking about in the beginning. The thing is, we have data sciences set up within our ML to be able to analyze and make meaning of the data that's available. So it's all about bringing it all together and being able to do that. What we are right now working on is something called as agentic AI, which many of you would have heard of, which is going beyond generative AI. Agentic AI would do things by its own autonomously, So it's all about setting up the flow and setting up these AI bots for each of the RAGs. So each RAG would have you would have something that happens, or rather we're trying to automate everything that RAG does, so that they really don't have to look at the scales at which they have to address the problems around. We're trying to work this out with peace right now, and at the same time we're also trying to work it out with a few other RAGs. So we're trying to experiment this. This is just an experiment right now. So that's where it stands. We should be able to have some results in the next webinar. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Richard, I want to elaborate on this one too. When I met with John Yuko in Calgary last time, I asked the question, why Rotary does not start their own AI? I mean, you have to feed AI. It doesn't exist on its own. So you create it for RI, then you have to feed it. The best argument he made is the Privacy Act. Until I showed him what we were able to do to find out what every district has in GDF at that time. Then he said, oh, okay. So now I understand. But it has, in order to have this information shared, it's not going to come from the bottom up. It has to come from the top down. The leadership in Rotary has to say, okay, we're going to start our own AI. We're going to feed it, So if here comes Ron, he had tons of projects all across. If his people can post those global grants or whatever he has done, so when it comes down to it, Robin on this meeting can go in and ask the question to our AI, and he can get that answer from an experienced person. And if we do that, and when we do that, I think our membership will increase, our giving will increase, because we're going to cut the time that we spend on getting the knowledge, probably on 1/10, because you can get the answer right there. And when we do that, I think Rotary have 120,000 goal membership by 2030, whatever. I think we'll exceed that because of the fact We are helping the Rotarians to serve with less time and spend more time for their business and family.
Okay, the thing here is, it's not that we don't have AI. We have AI algorithms set up in place that can serve Rotary. It's about acceptance. It's about acceptance. It's about awareness. So there are people who want to do things on their own. There are people who want support. There are different kinds of people around who have various thoughts. So it's all about acceptance. The thing is, we have an AI which was developed and which has improved, which has been used by many groups successfully, and it's all about, you know, being able to come forward and use what we already have, because Rotary does not need something really complicated. Our needs are very simple. It's about, you know, how we use these things. So we have these awareness sessions happening. So just participate, know how to use AI in those things, and we can slowly build, because each organization in Rotary has its own needs. Like, for example, WASHRAG and SRAG and RAG, endangered species. You know, each of these have their own needs. There are different focus areas. Each of them have different data which the AI needs to work on. You know? So it's all about building it from there. The base is already there. AI can set it up and build different profiles from there. So we already have it. It's about usage. It's about acceptance. Anyways, we have a question from Helene. Hi, Helene. Does Rotary allow multiple areas of focus to be addressed in one global grant, or must
Can I answer that?
on one area of focus?
Can
Yes,
I
sir.
answer that, if you don't mind, Ron and Milan? Okay. You can do as many areas of focus as you want, but here's the negatives about it. Global grant takes a little bit to go through, because it goes through your area coordinator first, and then it goes to that area of focus coordinator in Rotary International. And you have to do the assessments for each area of focus, and you have to do the sustainability for every area of focus. So if you increase one, that means another area of focus. That means it has to go through the process of all four of these things all together. Are you ready to do that and delay your global grant, you know, multiple times? So what I suggest is you put one area of focus, and the others will be a byproduct of your project. I'm sorry, you can you know, if anybody else wants to add, you can add.
Neelan, would you like to add something to this?
I think good answer, Shehab. That's entirely correct, because I think as we look through global grants, you know, you tick which boxes, and you can say, yeah, they also support that. But the process at Rotary, and I guess given the staff shortages, sometimes we forget that, you know, well, they are paid folks, but they get inundated with things, so that becomes a bottleneck.
Yeah, Robin, you wanted to add something? Robin Steele, you wanted to add something?
No, I noticed Helen has a question.
Is there a specific question?
No, it was connected to, I thought.
We thought we heard something.
Yes, Nelly. Yeah. Back to you.
Wants us to get out of our silos. One way to do that might be to make some tweaks in the global grant process where, yes, you have one specific area of focus, but also make it possible to recognize how your grant is going to improve people's economic activity and their health, and to just put those things in there to help us all to consider how many areas of focus we can touch on. So I work solely with microloans to empower village women, including the women in Yumbe who were the subject of one of your slides. And then you see what they can do once they're not using all their mental powers to just stay alive. Then they start looking around and they improve their communities in many different ways. But so the only focus I have is microcredit, but the purpose of it is so that the families are better fed and that the kids are educated and that people have healthy lives because the women have the ability to make those kinds of improvements.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Find it, guys.
And
Yes.
you're right. And you're right. You know, it affects it, but for the time to cut on your time of approval for your grant, I would suggest stick on what area focus and talk about what it will do to the community, because that gives you sustainability also. So it will increase your sustainability for your project. But stick with one. And the question was also asked before about the bigger grants and the impact of bigger grants. It is great to have a big grant, but you got to keep in mind also the process. When it goes over $99,000, then you're gonna go to the trustee. Now they have to review it. Now they have to give the approval, and then they have to send a cadre to your project to check on it and whatever, what have you. So now you are adding more work to your global grant, or more time to be approved. So think about it and see what the parameters will allow you, so you can cut down on your global grant, so it will get to that community as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well then, I need to end it here. This is the time we've got. Thank you very much for joining us, and amazing inputs being given. And thanks very much, Ron, for letting us know how you guys started with WASH and how you've been able to make the world aware of WASH and make WASH one of the most successful rags ever till date. And I've personally known about WASH and the way it has spread. WASH drags in one of the most biggest of Rotary crowds. Thank you very much for your service. And Neelam, amazing inputs from you as well. The way you showed us the impact that WASH has had, and the kind of work that cadre does. We have a lot of cadres, and I've personally been in touch with many cadres. Even our current RAGSID president also happens to be a cadre member, and these guys are amazing. Here we have Robin Steele. She appears.
Hi,
on
sorry.
video.
I
Finally.
missed Helene's question.
Yeah.
So I believe a global grant can address multiple areas of focus, but you have to choose one for the primary focus so that it can be reviewed by the proper RGO and approved by the foundation. I see Maria Imig is on the call. She's an RGO. Is that true, Maria?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. So, so it was good. So what I was saying is these are good inputs, and talking about AI has been the talk of the town all over the world, and amazing things are happening in the world of AI. A lot of improvements, a lot of evolution, a lot of implementation. Yes, Rotary needs to embrace AI because that's the way to go. We are looking at things at large scales. You have a lot of AI opportunities in each of your areas. And you have the IT fellowship here ready to help you all with anything to do with AI, cybersecurity, or the cloud. So let us know, and we're all here to serve you all. Thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you all in the
Bye-bye.
next session.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ron. Thank you so much, Neelam. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yes, people are action.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.